For some reason, I'm constantly extremely pale. I remember ages ago I filmed a video and I played around with the settings and I knew how to fix this, but in this day and age, I don't. I'm not a skilled professional. Anyway, so Dan came back. I feel like I should be wearing this t-shirt to make a video like this. However, is it only just me or did anyone else get static shocks from this? Every time I put it on, I essentially became a conductor. I would get zapped all the time by myself, you know. If that isn't self-hatred, I don't know what else is. Like, let's talk about it, okay? So everyone was in different places. I've seen loads of tweets being like, oh my god, reply back to where you were when Dan uploaded his video. And some people have some really interesting stories. Some people were out shopping and cried and everyone stared at them, which I'm sure was good for their self-esteem. Some people were in the middle of a family gathering or maybe even a funeral, who knows? Either way, I was on the toilet. I have the most boring story out there, and Dan has returned, and that really did fill a void that I didn't even know was empty. Well, I did, but I didn't know it was him that needed to fill it. This is getting weird very quickly. So if you've been following me for a while, or maybe you're new, but if you've been following me for a while, you would know that I kind of stopped watching Dan and Phil 2 years ago. People just kept making fun of me, and I thought, I'm not gonna watch them anymore, and then I actually just didn't. And I don't know why I did that. And then when I wanted to come back to them, I realised they went on hiatus. And that wasn't fun. You know, I was all ready again, I was ready for them, and they weren't there for me. They weren't there for me. There's only so much I could do to entertain myself, and honestly, there's not really anything out there that could fill what they used to do. I say they used to, they're coming back now, so, you know, all this pain and misery, it can finally end. A lot of people were kind of surprised that I cared, really, but I think people forget how into Dan and Phil I was back in the day. I was building a shrine, which is right beside me, which you can't really see, and then, you know, I kind of just, it never really was complete. But I was there for a while. I think I was there towards the very, very end of 2012 when my cousin Nathan introduced me to their videos. It really did change me. On a serious note, if you don't really watch Dan and Phil, you probably would have clicked off this video by this point, to be honest. If you don't really know who they are, and for some reason you're still here, if you watched any of their videos, you would completely see where my entire existence has come from. Sometimes I wonder if I didn't watch them, who would I be? I'd be an emotionless husk. A blob of nothing. I've essentially kind of like stolen their personalities, their humor, everything, and I didn't really credit them, so essentially I am the morgues of personalities. What? But I've been around for so long. I remember being in year 7 and constantly talking about them. Year 7 felt like yesterday, and now I'm making university choices. I digress, but you know what I mean. I've just been there for so long, and I've always been in the fandom, and my account had 60,000 followers back in the day. Don't ask me what I did to get those followers. I had a Tumblr page, you know, I was really, really in there. And I made loads of friends who all left me because I wasn't interesting anymore. Just like every fandom I'm in. And I didn't realise until I stopped watching them how just sad life became. It really was. I was a very happy person, and then I stopped watching them thinking that it would just get me more friends, and it didn't. That's one of my biggest regrets in life. But now that Dan's come back, and hopefully that means back with the gaming channel and everything's coming back into place again, it's just made me like remember all the things that happened back in the day, that, you know, all the dramas, all the iconic moments. Like, remember when Dan was spotted in the back of someone's vlog eating ice cream, but he really didn't play it off very well. And instead of just putting away the ice cream, just putting down the ice cream, he didn't really do himself any favours. And then there was that Dan is not on fire V1 account, which everyone thought was Dan. But as soon as Dan came back, so did the account. So not being funny. I was really worried for a second you could see my feet down here, but then you can't, so that's fine. If you're new, my audience have an obsession with my feet. What else was interesting? The hat fic. That was really funny to read out in class. So what I would essentially do is, whether you liked Dan and Phil or not, if you were in my class, as soon as I discovered what the hatfic was, I would get out on my phone and just read it to you. Because I loved watching people squirm. It was my favourite thing, and I am not a good person. There were other ones too. The skin fic, that was not so funny, that was just disturbing, that was just wrong. There were a lot of weird ones, so I can completely see why Dan and Phil love to keep everything private about their lives, because if you think about it, we hardly knew anything about them. If you really think about it, if you think about personal details, which a lot of YouTubers share, so a lot of my audience will know where I live and some of them what school I go to, which is great. With Dan and Phil, you don't really know a lot of information about them because that's how they wanted it to keep. Even though you hardly knew anything about them, there was still lots of really god-awful fan fiction out there. Do you remember when they released a shop? That was bloody exciting. You see, Dan had his own like little apparel thing and it was all Dinosaurs merch, and Phil had his own thing, and eventually they created the Dan and Phil shop. I think that was the first and only ever time I've done online shopping. I remember the first time they used someone's video as a trailer and the fandom went wild. Everyone was like, what? My first purchases from the Dan and Phil shop definitely was the purple just Dan and Phil top. I really wanted it in black, but it sold out immediately, so I had to get my hands on the purple one. Then obviously I remember getting this. I keep all my calendars, so every calendar they released every year I would get. Even at the point where I stopped watching them, I would still buy their calendars because I just felt that the calendars gave me good luck. So that's why I kept them. I remember buying this book too. God, maybe it'll break. The binding is fragile. So the last time I touched this was when I was in year 8, and every single page is dusty. There's a lot of Hangman stuff. Wow, I really was 12, wasn't I? To put it into context, I'm 18 next year. I should have just said I'm 17. I don't know why to make that complicated. I just found a bucket list from the 4th of February 2014. And I must have, in 2015, started marking things off. Oh, it's so cute. Meet Dan and Phil, tick. Meet the Sidemen, tick. Be a YouTuber. Does this count? Does it really? Have a best friend? No, I'm only 17. You know, maybe someone will ask me for editing tips and then the friendship will evolve. Be happy. It only gets worse from here, love. Get a Dan Twitter notice. Unsuccessful, I'm afraid. It's really difficult, especially nowadays where he's just hardly ever on the website. Get a Phil Twitter notice, tick. I actually got one, was it? When did I get one? 3 years ago? I don't know when I got one. Sidemen notices, and by this point I had put Vic ×3, Ethan ×11. Always his fave, just kidding, please don't shoot me. Toby ×3, well mate. Times have changed. But with my Dan and Phil calendars, the first calendar I own, which is the first one they released, on November the 10th, I should know this, I shouldn't have even hesitated. On November the 10th, I have writing and like this bubble, this coloured bubble saying the day I met Dan and Phil. And if you look at this, this is the Amazing Tour is Not on Fire VIP wristband. And can I still put it on? If I can, it's never coming off again. Come on. Come on. I will happily lose weight just so I can slip this on. Wait. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Wow, I feel 12 again. I'm so happy. I'm so happy he's returned. I feel like if I had wrinkles, they would have gone. Like, you know, Dan's return is literally my anti-age wrinkling cream. Did anyone else feel like Dan's return was literally like when Harry Potter came out of the mirror behind Neville during Deathly Hallows Part 2? Because that's how I felt. I don't know, I'm just so glad that I'm watching them again and I'm getting back into them and that Dan's back and he's all like happy with himself. Because there was one thing I noticed growing up watching those two was that although Phil was very reserved, you could tell he was quite happy and content, but Dan, you always had that underlining, is he okay? Like he would make those sarcastic jokes and like self-deprecation jokes, but you could just tell. But the fact that he's spoken about it like in his depression video and in his coming out video, it just really helps. Do you know what I mean? It really helps. Like, I know it helped a lot of people come out, and whereas it hasn't made me, you know what I mean? As well as that isn't for me, it's more of the fact that he brought up a lot of things, and that just, I'm just glad he exists. and Phil. I'm glad they exist. I'm glad they breathe. I'm glad I've met them. I'm glad I found them. And now they're coming back. My youth is returning. And Dan's return has kind of inspired me to just go out and be who I want to be. And so I'm sorry for not uploading, but you know, this really hit me and I wanted to talk about it, and I will upload more. I just wanted to talk about it. It means a lot to me. And I'm just so proud of him. And I'm proud of Phil. I'm proud of them both. Like, how many times have they gone on a tour since I stopped watching them? Like 20 billion times or something? I'm so proud of them. Look how far they've come. How many books do they have? I need to buy them all and catch up. There are some really cool people who I watch on YouTube. That there are just some brilliant people, some brilliant people, and I'm glad they're all successful because they deserve it. And yeah, I'm a happy bunny. Dan's back. My skin is clearing. Phil's content. Phil's supportive. Phil's tweet literally gave me an asthma attack. And yeah, that was an interesting to-do list. Maybe I'll update it and see what happens in 5 more years' time. My boys are back. My parents are back. My dad's, they're back. I'm happy. Life's going great. Anyway, see you when I upload next century. Bye.